War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together, we sit down, we talk about what's going on in the world of that Auburn family spectrum. Always heavy on the sports here, but if it's orange and blue, it is what we do. Thank you for joining us, whether you're watching live or on the replay. Appreciate you hanging out with us, spending some time with us, be part of our little family within the Auburn family. It's Thursday night, so what that means during football season is that we're getting together to talk about the upcoming game for the Auburn Tigers. Auburn versus Texas A&M, literally the battle to not be in first place, or excuse me, last place of the SEC West. You can choose to look at it that way. I choose to look at it as the very first time that you will hear these words coming out of Jordan-Hare Stadium. Head coach, Carnell Cadillac Williams. Go crazy, Cadillac. Go crazy. So excited for this game. I asked the question on a video earlier this week, is this the biggest game of Auburn's entire season? I think it's a pretty easy case to say a yes on that. We can talk about that some, but really we want to dive into the game itself, what we anticipate to see, maybe not even about the X's and O's, but just what we expect to experience, to see, to feel. All of that stuff is fair game tonight. And of course, we'll talk about some predictions and things like that as well. Would love to hear from you as you come into the stream tonight. Please do make sure that you smash the like button. If you're here on YouTube, if you're watching on Facebook, or if you're watching on Twitter, you can do similar things. But right now, in unison together, live on the replay, make sure you post where you're watching from, city, state, international, with a War Eagle. Let me know that you're here hanging out tonight to talk about this upcoming game. So do that in the comment section. We'll take some questions and so on, comments throughout the stream tonight. As we normally do, if I don't have a fan from the opposing side, I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't try real hard to get one this week just because I had a lot of other stuff going on. But we always open the phone lines up to any Texas A&M fans or whoever we're playing that week. If you're in the chat live, please do let me know, and I will work to get you the call-in link, and we would be happy to talk to you, hear your perspectives about this game. I'm sure there's some interesting things from your side and potential buyouts and things like that to anticipate. We got Linda checking in. Rob's here. 6 hours left. Auburn bound tomorrow. John Stokes in the house. Good to see you, John. Neil, Damien's here. Terry on Facebook. All these good people, fine people joining in to the stream right now. Appreciate you all being here. Make sure you tell a friend as well that we're live. Invite them in on social media to be part of the show. This is the first game in a while that Auburn is favored to win, pulling for Caddy. You know, it would be interesting to think about it this way. So let's say the Arkansas game had happened this week and they had flip-flopped. Would Auburn still be favored simply because Arkansas is an okay team, not a great team, but an okay team? Maybe even Mississippi State. Throw those two in there. Would they still be favored? And I guess what I'm getting at is the hype of Cadillac really what's pushing people's perceptions of this game and what is actually going to be the difference maker in this game? I don't know. It could just be the fact that both are 3-6, not having great years. Could be the thing and Auburn has the home field advantage. Here's what I do know to start out with Texas A&M. They have a lot of talent on that team. All you got to do is look at their recruiting class. Just from, on paper talent, they have it. A lot of it. The problem is they have a coach who seems to not be able to put that together or utilize it in a way as quickly as you need to be. So what I'm getting at with that is there is a potential here that Texas A&M could be good enough to beat us. In this scenario, though, I wouldn't want to beat Texas A&M. Dealing with what they're dealing with, where they're at, they're not having the same feel-good story that we're having right now. So think about it from that perspective. It'll make you feel a little bit better about all that kind of stuff if you're concerned that Auburn would lose this game. Kyle, my Ole Miss buddies keep texting me saying congrats on getting Lane. I wish they'd stop texting me. I hear you. Love the way Caddy has reined in some of those guys who obviously haven't been going to class. Well, I mean, Jan, do you know that for a fact? That's, can't prove that. Now, here's what I will say. being a former college student, I will tell you, not even being an athlete. I mean, an athlete, but not to that level. The distractions of not going to class. I'm not sitting here saying I think they all go to class, but I mean, just let's not make accusations without being able to say that with definitive proof. Here's what I will say. The culture, right or wrong, for good reasons or not, was not working with Harsin and staff at the helm. We, even after he left, some other players decide to sit out the year. Sometimes when you remove people that don't necessarily want to be there, want to be participating, that makes things even better, just because it kind of cleans up the room and makes things a little bit more pleasant to be around, a lot of better energy. So your point stands that Cadillac seems to have whatever was going wrong, culture, feelings, energy-wise, has been reined in. So I will agree with you on that. They will owe him a lot. Yes. Of course, if last 3 years, we fired 2 head coaches and staff, so maybe we've equaled that too. So if you think about it this way, don't really want to get into this trend, but what would you have to say about Rhett? I like Rhett. Again, kind of like when I talked about last night's stream about when we were talking a lot of coaching search stuff. I'm kind of favoring somebody with a little bit more Power 5 proven experience, but I like Rhett from what I know about him, and I would not be upset with that. But I don't think it's going to check the boxes that we probably need. And if Caddy needs to stay in whatever capacity he can right now. All right. So I don't want to start our discussion of Texas A&M. I'm trying to think too. And by the way, we will probably stop a few minutes early tonight. Usually we go for about an hour, but we'll kind of hone it in before that a little bit tonight, just to kind of help you understand. Also, I should mention this too. Normally I give you guys like little, heads up of what's coming this week in terms of what to anticipate. A lot of the regular content is planned, a post-game live stream, a Tiger Walk live stream. What I'm not sure about is the timing of things. Locker room tour, football facility tour, maybe. Stay tuned. Reverse Tiger Walk, maybe. I don't know. Listen, there's a lot going on this week that I'm going to be trying to manage. So that's why I've not officially said any of those things. Not even going to be showing you thumbnails of them to remind you. Just get ready. This is going to be a busy, but fun weekend. I just don't know when I'm going to sleep. It's really what it amounts to. All right, let's look at comparing these teams about just some of the overall stuff here. Right now, both same record, 3-6 in the year. Same SEC record, 1-5 in the SEC. Neither team is ranked. Texas A&M, they got up to in the top 10 at one moment, right? Am I remember that correctly? Let me know. I did not get basketball tickets. No, then I have not gotten basketball tickets. So if you know any, let me know. Because I would love to go to the game, because I don't know how many I'm going to get to actually go to this year because of the prices. So Jimbo Fisher, not having a great year overall for this team. They both played their last game last week, so nobody's coming off a bye week, so there's not going to be any element of that. But we had already talked about culture. We already talked about how that potentially affects both of these teams, especially when you got home field advantage for Auburn. That's really going to put them in a good position to move forward. I was kind of looking through here on the schedule, trying to remember where their wins came from. So they have beaten Sam Houston. They beat number 13 Miami. Pretty good win for them. They beat, at the time, number 10 Arkansas. And Miami, I don't believe, is ranked anymore either. Do I have that correct, guys? I think I do. But ranked wins at the time. So this is kind of what I was getting at when I told you guys this, that don't think for a minute that we're going to just walk into Jordan-Hare Stadium with a hype of Cadillac and just win this game on that alone. We got to go out and play solid football, because they've shown to be able to beat at least competent teams this season. I would call Arkansas a competent team. Not a great team, a competent team. I would say that Miami, I haven't watched them a lot, but they're usually competent, although Cristobal doesn't seem to be having the greatest time down there. So don't underestimate this team that's coming in here, but know that we definitely do have the advantage. Yes, they lost to App State, but App State's not bad. They're not great, but they're not bad. So remember that. So they've lost to Mississippi State. They've lost to, they almost beat Alabama. So keep that in mind too. Lost at South Carolina, lost at home to Ole Miss, and got but beat pretty handily by Florida. So keep that in mind. When I look at these games, the Florida game sticks out, the Mississippi State game sticks out, and that's it in terms of like getting killed. And then obviously losing to App State. So it's not like this team has been far away from being a much better team. I know it seems like I'm trying to sell you on the fact that Auburn could lose this game. To me, it doesn't mean that we're in a bad situation. I'm just trying to prepare myself mentally too for the fact that all this energy, still we've got to go out there and play good football. 4-5, so terrible. Yeah, maybe so. But they have the athletes to be competitive. How about this? They're better than us right now. Granted, they're not playing in the SEC, but they're still better than us right now. Have you guys seen the graphic on social media? And they update it every week now of Jimbo Fisher versus Kevin Sumlin. And for a time there, it was interesting. Like you watched the first couple of weeks, they would show the graphic and then the Kevin Sumlin, and they would have the overall record, like, versus home losses or top 25 wins and stuff like that. And Jimbo Fisher was still obviously the better choice, but it was very close. And then it got to the point where it was like dead even, and now it's completely swapped. Same amount of time, same, the record's better for Kevin Sumlin. So it's really about they paid more for less so far if he gets things turned around. I'm going to be interested to see if he survives this year and if that talent just suddenly clicks on for him and mask all the problems that he had. Yeah, there was a team that made it to a bowl game at 5-7, but that was because of some eligibility thing that was really weird between the conferences. So let me just put it to you this way, folks. Auburn has to win out to go to a bowl game. Don't start telling yourself that this is, really, this is the eliminator game, right? This is for who's going to be worst in the SEC West, and it's the eliminator for who's going to a bowl game this year, even though it's highly, who do they have left in their schedule? Us, UMass, and LSU. LSU's looking pretty good. So they don't have an easy time to win out either, but I would say we have the much tougher task to win out playing Alabama, even though Alabama lost to LSU. I get that, but I think Bryant Denny's going to be a little tougher, just saying, and given our circumstances and things like that. So the battle for last place in the SEC to avoid that, last place in the SEC West, and the battle to remain in bowl eligibility. Just don't convince yourself that 5-7 is all you need to get there. If you're curious in terms of the all-time series matchups, like what each team looks like with each other, you've got a 7-5 record in favor of A&M compared to when they play Auburn. So we are 5-7 essentially in our all-time record with A&M. Now, I think that counts for a couple of games before they were conference opponents. They've only been, it's been 8 years. What's it been? Anybody know? 8 years, 9 years, 10 years that they've been in the SEC? I can't really remember. So if you guys know, let me know. But obviously it would behoove us to win this year and get that back closer to being evened up. There are a few games when you think about it this way that could have really changed the look of that overall record. It's going to be televised on SEC Network. Same crew again: Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, Cole Kublik. So Cole Kublik is going to come back to, and a lot of people have talked about this, kind of the ins and outs of the game too, expecting a lot of former players to be there. So Cole Kublik will be there because he's working. But has anybody seen like a confirmed list of like players that are planning to be there or attend in person at the very least, if not on the sideline? That'd be interesting to start tallying that up. What I do know is it's going to be a huge recruiting weekend for us. A lot of 5 stars, a lot of 4 stars. Everybody gets excited about those. It just goes to show you that Auburn can sell itself very easily, even without a true, and I say that, would love for Cadillac to be the true head coach, but he's not right now. He is an interim. All right, trying to go through some of the stuff here and kind of look at overall stats. Oh, I just pulled up Jimbo's page that they provide us. And I don't even want to look at that for him. The Fisher record. Trying to look in, see if I see any familiar faces on there. People will often forget that Damian Craig is with them now. He is the quarterbacks coach. When he was with us, he was the wide receivers coach. He is a very famed recruiter. He did some great things for us when he was here as wide receivers coach, but he is working with the quarterbacks again, seeing as how he was a quarterback himself when he was here at Auburn. Pulling up some other things to keep in mind for the game here. This is Military Appreciation Day, so you're going to see a lot of that going on. Expect a flyover. Actually, it's going to be at nighttime. Kickoff will be at 6:30, so it'll probably be dark by the time a flyover could happen. Doesn't mean they won't, but you won't be able to see it as good. Maybe it's the helicopter thing again. That would be really cool to see. Anything else for this game? Senior Day is obviously next week, so you don't. The next game, so you don't have to really worry about that particularly, but just some things to keep in mind for general game information type of stuff. Let's see here. Trying to pull up any other little stats that we can use to kind of start making inferences about this overall matchup, and they're just not handily coming up to me right now. Anyway, so how does everybody feel about this game? What's your general feeling? Try to separate it from the overall, I'll call it the noise, but it's good noise, right? With Cadillac at the helm, everybody's feeling good about it. Everybody is, feeling like we've got the energy to win. What do you really feel about our chances to win? Do you think Auburn has the pieces that it needs to beat Texas A&M? My answer is yes, but I'd be curious to hear what some of you guys think about it. Because you got to remember, we have officially now lost yet another offensive lineman. And this is an offensive line that has struggled all year. But even Cadillac pointed out this week, the game of the year in the SEC. In terms of hype for the home crowd, maybe, but not really. You didn't realize that Auburn had a tennis team? What kind of Auburn fan are you? They have 2 tennis teams, a men's and a women's team. Pretty good, too. I love to pick on you, Neil. I've seen A&M twice now. It's always a fist fight with them. You're talking about in person? Yeah, I can't. I recall one blowout. That's when they had Johnny Manziel. It really does feel like the majority of the games, they've all been close enough for each team to have an opportunity to win at least somewhat at the end of the game. Meaning not completely out of it, just kind of down in the ball to get out of there with a win. Talking about being the last in the SEC, Missouri and Vanderbilt. I mean, really, I guess Missouri would still be below the 2 of us. So that's really what it is. We're safe from being the complete bottom, right? Neil says that Auburn does have the pieces to beat Texas A&M. And I would agree with that, even with the losses on the offensive line. Because think about it, like I was just talking about. You've got Nick Brahms out at the beginning of the year. Tate Johnson, the then current center, gone move Brendan Council over there. So that's 3 centers that you've gone through. Now you've lost Austin Troxell, who is arguably your most solid one that you've had in terms of maybe consistency is probably what we're looking to say right there. But everybody's been moved around. So that's going to affect a little bit, but it's given other opportunities for other people like Brendan Coffey's had some okay games. Jeremiah Wright's really come along. At home, they're probably going to really feel that too. So that should encourage you at least. Jan asks, is Andre's injury from last year still bothering? I mean, we won't know that, Jan, obviously, because I don't have him to talk. And he, if you ask him, he's going to say yes. Here's what I will tell you two examples from personal injuries in athletics that I've had. There's always a mental aspect of it too, depending on the severity of the injury. So it could be as simple as that. I would make the case that Alan Flanagan last year for basketball, who went from being on everybody's draft board to just struggling to get back to his old self last year, that was really kind of a mental thing. Not that you're scared, but you don't plant as easy. You don't swing your leg as easy. You don't have as much confidence in yourself. I want him to finish out strong. So I know a lot of people are like, why not try Evan McPherson? But I mean, what are you really gaining by trying him outside of us being ahead in the game, right? This is a kid that gave up his time, stayed for another year, didn't have to. I say just let him play it out. But I get what you're asking though, is do you think it's bothering him? I don't know that it's physically bothering, but mentally bothering him. I could see that being a reality. Devin's here. We're out of dinner. Pop in and say hello. We always appreciate you popping in. When's the last time Auburn had back-to-back losing seasons? Bill Oliver or Earl Brown? Maybe. It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. A lot of people are comparing Harsin to Earl Brown. Rob says that our defense will need to play their best game in order for the offense to stay on the field and make plays. I would tend to agree with this. I think this is going to be another team that has the ability to make plays on offense. And if we can but that was the same case with Mississippi State and having the home field advantage. And our guys did that. I think that if Texas A&M gets any whiff that this crowd is going to be just ridiculous the entire game, like meaning we give a reason for them to be just super hyped up, us to be super hyped up and stay that way throughout the first quarter, it's going to be a really long night for Texas A&M offensively. Let me see. I got some people trying to get rid of in the stream because they're misbehaving. Low lives. Anyway, 98 and 99 were both losing seasons. So right there at the interchange from, I guess, Tuberville, right? Maybe so. So long time ago. It's been 2 decades. Yes, 2 decades since back-to-back losing seasons. But let's not focus on that. Let's focus more on the game at hand and what we can do to beat that. So pulling up some stats to look at here overall for this game. I saw an article where Quattlebaum was honored by the Bullsworth nomination. Yes, he should be. Very much well-deserved for him. All right, Auburn versus Texas A&M. Battle to not be last in the SEC West here. So right now, the predictor is this on ESPN. 51% favor Auburn. 48% favor Texas A&M. So it's not really like Auburn's super favored in this, but they are expected to win. I feel like I'm glitching a little bit on the screen. If you guys are having any like connectivity issues, let me know, because on one screen it looks like I've got some. On the other, it doesn't. So if y'all are seeing any, like, if it looks like I'm delayed or anything like that, let me know. Always throws me off from time to time. So passing yards. So Hines King, I think is how you say his name. He's 104 of 187, 1,220 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Comparatively, Robbie Ashford is 98 for 195. He's got 1,374 yards, 1,374 yards, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. So I look at this and they're very, very similar, right? 2 very similar quarterbacks, probably with a lot of talent, having a lot of struggles this year. If you look at overall yardage, Ashford is having the better year, but if you look at, Haynes King, touchdown to interception ratio is a lot better. He's also thrown a little bit less than Robbie Ashford is had. So what do you guys think about, let's see, the predictor is wrong. Auburn is winning 33-30 and had Miss State at 58%. Was winning 33-30 and had Miss State. I don't know. I'm really struggling to understand what you're saying there. P-pass. I don't know what that That's really, I'm just going off what ESPN says right now is the matchup predictor that they have right now. It's a predictor, so it's going to be wrong. The very likelihood that they get something exactly right is very, very low, but that's why it's called a predictor. My hair looks great. Thank you. AU needs to channel their inner App State to beat A&M. I don't know about that. I'm still not understanding past what you're trying to say, but anyway, maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm not understanding what you're trying to get at there. Is anybody intimidated by Haynes King in their passing game? Let me give this to you. Stewart is their leading receiver, 46 receptions, 598 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Comparatively, our best receiver is Javaris Johnson with 428 yards, 23 receptions, and 1 touchdown. Now, if you look at that, he has had fewer, about exactly half as many receptions, and just about 170 yards less of yards and only 1 touchdown. So very comparative. So it doesn't seem to me, if you look at that and talk about what we know about Auburn's passing game and look at A&M's quarterback stats versus, and then also his best receiver stats, that tells you that their passing attack isn't going very well. We'll look at running here in just a minute. You're saying you don't trust the ESPN predictor. Well, that's fair. I mean, everybody makes their choices. I think it's honestly very fair because these are two teams that very equal in record and what we talked about stats so far, with it being home field advantage, giving the good vibes that Auburn have. I think that's a very fair prediction. I'd like to see it maybe closer to a 55 or something like that for Auburn, but that's why it's a predictor, right? They got Jimbo as the 13th man. That's their unlucky downfall. That's funny. Does A&M have a good offensive line? Well, let's look at how their best running back is doing. A-Chain, forget his first name, but A-Chain, have been talking about him a lot because I know a Texas A&M fan that I've talked with and been on their podcast in previous years, and all I heard was A-Chain, 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 A-Chain. And I do see highlights of this guy popping up on the SEC recast or all that kind of stuff. So it really does seem like he's a good talent, a good athlete, comparing his running things to Tank, who's not had a good offensive line. A-Chain has 158 carries on the year. So he's had about 25 more than Tank Bigsby, 887 yards. Tank has had 123, 676 yards, and 8 touchdowns. So Tank has done, again, more with less. Less protection, less holes being created for him, less yardage, and he has more touchdowns. Now, he's had a few probably closer touchdowns because of being close to the end zone that he took for himself because he's just a beast. So when you ask the question, do they have an O-line? I don't know specifics about their offensive line. You know what we could do, though? I'll pull up their stat here in just a second, or their roster. Let's see if we can get to that and give you a little bit of an idea of, here we go. Offensive line. So their starters, you've got a sophomore, a freshman, a junior, a freshman, and a freshman. So very, very young. So when you look at some maybe the not so impressive stats that A-Chain may have right now, and I don't think they're bad, but Tank's doing, more with less, frankly, and he's had a lot less to work with. You can kind of understand maybe why their offensive line shouldn't be one to really kind of bat an eye at right now. Frankly, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. All right, let me close this part out because I think that's the thing that's making me think my monitor is slowing down. So we've talked about some stats overall. Let's see what you guys are saying. I'm not intimidated by Texas A&M in any way, shape, or form. I'm not intimidated. So when I'm asking the question, does Auburn have the tools? Should they be favored to beat Texas A&M? I think the answer is probably yes. That's not me just trying to create drama. I'm not intimidated by them, but I'm also not going to disrespect them and say they don't have the capability of beating Auburn. Georgia State has proven that anybody can almost beat Auburn. Revenge for the 2013 Saturday night. 2013 Saturday night. I'm trying to remember that. Are you talking because 2013 would have been at Kyle Field and we won that one. You mean 2012? Is that what you mean? Because that one was awful. I think I remember that was one of Gene Chiswick's last games, I think. Here's what I will say. A lot of the time, or for the longest time in this particular matchup, the away team won. It was just one of those weird things. And then Auburn finally bucked that trend in 2017, I think it was. It was the Seth Williams catch in the back corner of the end zone. I was sitting there, saw it right there. It was an amazing catch. And then it's kind of just been a free-for-all since then. Like, they won at their place last year, even though we probably should have won that game. So traditionally, the away team has been the one that wins this. So if you want to like put history into it, just consider that as well. ESPN's not calculating the energy. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. The question is, does A&M have a good run defense? I don't know why on this stat sheet that I have that it's not like right up at the front, but I wanted to look at some of those things. I'll try to continue to find it unless you guys find it as well. Do they have a good run defense? Well, let's take a look at their front 4 or 3, whatever they utilize here, and kind of look at, seniority type of thing. So they've got a junior on the defensive line. I guess that's their defensive end. They've got a junior, a freshman, and a sophomore listed as their starters. They're led by 2 seniors at the linebacker. So a lot of youth at the very front, senior leadership at the back. I don't recall a lot of these guys' names, so they obviously haven't made a ton of noise, but doesn't mean that they're not good talents. But I look at the youth, extreme youth that I see on a defensive front, and that makes me think that they are going to be susceptible to an Auburn running attack that has been getting a little bit better. But that was 2014, if that's what you were talking about. Johnny Foosball won the Heisman in 2012. Yeah, he did. That was interesting, wasn't it? Game weather, rain on Friday, but Saturday night, cloudy and 65. That's another part. I always like to not just talk about the X's and O's, but I like to talk about the stuff around the game. So, talked about the energy. Cadillac's first game as a interim or otherwise head coach for Auburn. And wow, you probably couldn't have better football weather. So yes, we've got this tropical storm that's coming through. It's getting everything wet right now. We just started getting rain today, but it is all indications is that it will be through by Friday and it will open up to sunshine. And, well, cloudy, I guess, but at least some sun, maybe a little bit, and throughout the day, spottiness. And then 65 degrees is going to be the high. But it seems like the low for that night is like the mid 40s. So it's going to cool down really nicely. It's going to be one of those stereotypical brisk fall football evenings with Cadillac as your head coach. What more could you ask for? This is why I've been stressing to people when they stop by this channel all week, or 2 weeks really, since Cadillac was it. If you can get to campus, get to campus. There are places to watch the game. You can watch it in the Student Center. I've watched so many games in the Student Center. Yes, it was painful to know that it was right outside. If I had a ticket, I could go in. I have one for this one, thankfully. But if you can get to campus, get to campus. It's going to be a fun atmosphere, especially if you can have friends and stuff that you can tailgate with. Highly recommend getting there. All right. They have just not got their looking at some of these things here. A-Chain, the running back, trying to look how many times. This is a 100-yard rushing game. He has had one against Florida, 122 yards. He had one against Ole Miss, 138 yards. Mississippi State, 111 yards. So he's basically had 5 different times this year. He's had 4 different times this year. He's had a 100-yard rushing game. So seems like he's a pretty good talent, just is probably not as consistent as you'd like for him to be. I have 2 business partners joining me on Saturday night. One of them is an A&M grad, maybe only one partner after the game. Depends on who's mad at who, right? Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot all week about how amazing that is. So here's the problem if you're the Auburn Productions crew, right? You know everybody's expecting, wanting, desiring some version of the Go Crazy Cadillac, Go Crazy thing happening as they come out of the tunnel. But how do you do it without being too cliche and not just slapping the regular thing up there? That's the thing that's going to be interesting for me to watch. How does AU Productions, figure out how to do something unique and special, but still giving the people what they want this time around? They have got a lot of A-chain in this media guide here. All right. I think I finally found what I wanted here. All right. This is what we were looking for. I wanted to look at Texas A&M stats so we could make some maybe predictions, assumptions about what to expect overall. We had someone asking, how is their run defense? So right here, we got it. Yards gained rushing. And this is for the year, I guess. I was looking for game by game thing, trying to figure out if they'll. Yeah, here we go. So rushing yards allowed to their opponent this year. This is Texas A&M, 2,136 yards. Rushing average per rush that they are allowing 4.9. My friends, that is 2 rushes and you've basically got a first down. This should bode very well for an offensive line that is beleaguered, that has had its struggles for a variety of reasons. That's going to be at home with that energy, with a guy like Tank who has come on strong, and Jarquez too, who's been arguably the strongest all year running back wise. And then you've got a little bullet in Damari Alston, who just any chance he gets, he wants to bust off a 7-yard run, a 10-yard run, something like that. He just wants to be out there playing and doing something. So that should bode very, very well for us in the run game. And what the Coach Cadillac said he wanted to do is get us back to Auburn football, hard-nosed running game. And that's going to really help Robbie Ashford find his footing early on in the game, especially when you're at home. So 4.9 yards per rush is what they are allowing, their opponents are getting on them. They're allowing 215 yards per game, and they've allowed 10 rushing touchdowns on the year. Let's look at passing, since we talked about their defense as well. Oh, how about this? Since we talked, let's break there. Everybody give your predictions in the comment section right now, the chat. Given that information, 4.9 yards per carry, how many rushing yards do you think Tank Bigsby will have on the night? Go. Post it real quick. So probably, you could make a case for somewhere between the range of 75 yards to 200 yards. What do you think? Share your favorite tumors memory for our NIL on to victory. Oh, is that the roll on to victory thing? Yeah. Neil's predicting 80 yards rushing for Tank. Pass is predicting 121. We got a 2. Okay. So Linda was kind of going the direction, and then she went further than I. So here's what I think is going to happen. Tank is going to have a good game conceivably against Western Kentucky, but he wants to have one more big game against a bigger opponent at home. So this is your last one, truthfully, in that kind of category. I think Tank is going to hit somewhere in the realm of, we got a 85 here. Tank is going to hit somewhere in the 160 to 170 range. Once I've looked at those stats, that makes me think we can do some big things with Tank, or Tank will do some big things. I won't go 200. I would love it if that happens, but 160 to 170 yards, I think it's very plausible and possible all at the same time. Robbie will have 110. Tank will have around 170. So you're saying a total then roughly of 280. So it means we probably rush for 300, given, other rushing things that we'll do. Now they only allow 215. So that will really be a push away from their average, which would make sense with us being at home, right? I think Tank gets 170 total. So you're saying with the passing game. So the only way you said 120 total. So you're saying about 50 yards receiving. For whatever reason, there's just not been a good connection between Robbie and Tank this year passing. Like either Tank's dropped it or Robbie's kind of thrown it over his head or Tank's been turned around. There was a miscommunication. I'm just not sold that the passing game with Tank, even though it's been utilized and we needed to just get him out in space and get him the ball, has been it and will be successful this year. I think most of his stuff is going to have to come from the ground. Going back to running down their throats this week. Yep. All right. Let's look at passing and talking about their defense, how much they allow per game. We've got them allowing an average pass yardage of 6.1. Their average, average per pass than average. Okay, so they've got an average per pass of 6.1, average per catch, meaning after yards. So 10.6 is what you really are interested in, is what they're averaging in their passing game overall, the pass to the catch to the run after the catch. They're averaging allowing 173 yards, 173.6 yards per game. I think Auburn's average passing game is like not even barely 100. So not that that's a clear weakness for them. We probably could exploit a few more yards of it, and they've allowed 14 yards on the year. So given that information, 10.6 yards per catch. They're allowing 173 yards per game passing. Same thing I asked you with Tank. How successful, how many yards passing, maybe touchdowns too, do you think Robbie Ashford will have in this game? Post it in the comments right now. We can't pass, so it doesn't matter. We can, just not as fluidly as we would like to. Tank and Jarquez going over 100. Now, if we do that, whoo, buddy, it's over for Texas A&M. I will venture to say this. If Tank busts off 130 and Jarquez is in the realm of about 60, 70, something like that, which between the two of them will be 200, meaning Robbie's going to do some with his legs. That's going to still get us pushing 250, 300 range. That's going to be a good night for Auburn. It doesn't even have to be they both break 100. It's that until Javaris Johnson torches their defense. I hope so. I'd love to see him get back in the groove. Linda says 90 passing yards for him. Ashford for 200. He'll give Robbie 98. So that's a wide berth there of opinions. Here's what I would just like to see Robbie break into the 100 passing yard range this particular game. He needs a confidence boost. He needs something to kind of get going in that realm of the offense because it hasn't been working this year for a variety of reasons. So if we can really get the run game established early, which based on the stats, it seems like we're going to be able to, and allow him some freedom, a cushion to work with so he can not be so fearful of making mistakes, then maybe we can really get him some solid work passing in this game. Let me pull back a little bit and look at their defensive backs, not necessarily on stats, but sometimes you can take things away from just looking at their depth chart and the seniority level. So defensive backs wise, they've got a sophomore, a junior, freshman, senior. So they probably looks like they play like a nickelback or something like that. So you've got sophomore, junior, freshman, senior. Pretty evenly mixed, but two freshmen in there that play. So maybe susceptible to getting beat or not as solid as someone would be if they had a little bit more experience. Will TJ show up Saturday? I think TJ's done. I have no confirmation of that, but I think TJ's done. You said 130. I'm going to predict 120. No, 122 passing yards on the day. It will be very interesting if Auburn doesn't turn the ball over. Will speak volumes. Well, we didn't turn the ball over at all last game, even though there was the one fumble on the sideline that wasn't recovered. You see what happens with this team if they just don't turn the ball over and cause turnovers themselves. They have the capability of staying in the game, coming back in the game, and winning the game. But just don't create a hole for yourself, like a bad hole. Camden Brown has his coming out party in this game. Maybe, but he's kind of already had his coming out party. I mean, we know what we get with Camden. What is a coming out party like in terms of football, right? Is that like you have 200 yards, 3 touchdowns? Is that what you're getting at? Like, because, yeah, that would be like, oh, I'm here. I've arrived. But I think he's already arrived, and we've seen some of the catches that he's made. He's got a few touchdowns. Deep ball off a trick play. He'll be good, but I don't see it happening. Excuse me. I would agree with this because for me, yes, they have had a full week of preparation, right? Last week, we all know the storyline. We've talked about it ad nauseum now. Basically 3 days of preparation after the firing, the interim naming, AD, like all that stuff that went on. Just had to piece something together. They've now had a full week to get their game plan together. The likelihood of them having some really solid trick plays is minimal, but they may utilize something they've been working on all season, right? I would love for Shed to have a good game. I agree. I would love nothing more for these last, especially 2 games at home, to have some of these seniors, 5th-year seniors have their best games to kind of round out the year. And it looks like you're going to be playing opponents where you have a higher chance of beating them, where that may be a high likelihood. So a guy like Shed, Anders, Derek's having a great year, but Derek Hall, Nehemiah Pritchett. Nehemiah, has he gotten an interception this year? I'd love to see him get an interception. So how about this? Let's have another prediction. We talked about, predictions for Auburn's offense. How many turnovers, fumbles, and interceptions, however you can just say the number, or you can break it down however you want, does Auburn gain, meaning they intercept the ball, they recover a fumble in this game? How many do you think? Just throw it out there. I'll try to see if I have a turnover number available for you. I'm going to scooch back down here in my list of things. Trying to remember, he had 6 interceptions on the year, so not great. Not great at all. So that should give you an idea of some abilities. Interceptions. That's people who've gotten interceptions. I'm trying to look for fumbles. Here we go. Well, I thought I had it. It's not showing up now. Maybe they don't want to show that. But how many do you think? Share with that me in the chat. You saying TJ? TJ's transferring. Yeah, I mean, reports are one thing, but confirmation is another. But I was told last night by someone who has a source that I would not dispute that TJ has been gone for a while. And that makes sense, right? But it's still just a report right now. We can't confirm or deny that. 2 big throws from Asher. There you go. TJ to Liberty. Probably wouldn't. Well, but see, they like mobile quarterbacks if Hugh Freeze stays there, and he's not really that. All right. All right. We got the predictions coming in for turnovers. 0 from Linda, 4 from pass. Special teams gets 1 turnover, meaning like a punt, fumble on a punt return or kickoff return or something like that. If this O-line improves as much as Caddy says, then I will indeed inject it into my veins. Listen, I think not that Caddy's just lying or saying anything like that. I just wouldn't suspect to see a drastic improvement. But what we have seen over the last 2 games is small improvements in areas, which is a really encouraging sign because for the longest time we weren't seeing that, and that was very frustrating. Remember? So that's really what you should be looking for. Not a drastic improvement, but are we continuing the things that we're doing well? Outside of backside pressure, giving Robbie more of a pocket, giving more room for Tank to work up the middle. If that happens, and some of that's because they've been utilizing the tight ends in the blocking game a little bit more effectively. 3 turnovers is what you meant. I was surprised that you put 0. But yeah. All right. So let's do this. We're going to start winding down our show. What I would love for you guys to do while I give you reminders here is to post your official score prediction. Ooh, I like that. DJ James or JD Rim with their first picks. I like that prediction. Okay. I'd like for you to post your score prediction right now in the chat. Get it in. Don't delay. Let me give you a couple of reminders here. And we'll go ahead and close this down for the night. I have no specific little things other than the normal stuff. It's subscriber giveaway time on that journey to 5,000 subscribers. Make sure you are subscribed so you can be entered in. But you must also continue to leave a comment on every eligible video till this thing's done. So when you get done watching this, go right back into the comment section and drop. You can just post your score prediction again because it's not eligible here on the live chat. But do that. You can be a Booster Club member, a channel member. Check out the links for all of the description stuff. And I will reiterate, the schedule for this weekend is going to be crazy. I am, as far as I know, getting to go see the football facility early with the rest of the media. I haven't been told no yet. So I don't know how much I can and will be able to share from that, but I do plan to go back over there if allowed, if it's not going to cause a big stink, to do a live stream walkthrough of it. At the very least, my hope is to do a live stream from the locker room. We will definitely do a post-game live stream, but it will be a late one. We'll definitely do a Tiger Walk live stream. Basically, be ready this weekend, folks. Follow us on social media. Follow us here. Stay tuned to the podcast. You never know. It is going to be a fun, absolutely crazy weekend. Let's see what you guys, and I agree, smash that like button if you haven't. All right, let's see what your score predictions are. 27-20 Auburn. Fair. 24-17 Auburn. You know what I did miss is usually on Auburn's sheet, they have a little bit better of a, I can't find it right now, but a little bit better of a predictor thing here. 32-10 Auburn. Linda's feeling like blowout city. Best game bar defense, 26-23. Pass is 37-17. That's in the blowout realm. I'll say that as well. So here's what I will predict. And I kind of told you a little bit already where my mind's going. I think it's going to be a big running game day, which I think is going to open up the pass. I may jinx this, but boy, we haven't had a lot to be really super excited about this year. So I'm going to predict my first blowout. I think Auburn's going to win. We'll score at least 14 in the first half. I'm going to predict Auburn wins 31-17. That's not really a blowout, but it's blowout by this year's standards. 31-17. That's my prediction. What do you guys think? Yes, we can't do that again. That was miserable. That was absolutely miserable. And we all love watching A&M fail, especially with the way they were getting all the nice. AU has a big second half. That's kind of what I'm thinking, Neil. I think it kind of starts slow and then we just pull away. Yes, Linda's is giving you all a reminder. We do an unofficial meetup at Tiger Walk right in front of the banner every single Tiger Walk at home. If you are coming, please get to Tiger Walk early this thing's going to fill up. I'm actually nervous about getting there on time and having to secure my normal spots. I don't like to go extra early and just stand there for an hour, but I think I'm going to have to. So come hang out with us if you can. We'll do Tiger Walk together. Dylan Brooks with the first. I love these predictions. Awesome. So that's what you can do when you're done watching the live stream. Come back onto it. Post in the comment section your big crazy prediction for this game. Guys, thank y'all so much for hanging out with me tonight. A little bit shorter live stream, I know, but I do have somewhere to be after this. I know it is late. Like, where are you going? But I have a life outside of this. I'm excited for this weekend, guys. Be ready. Lots of content. Caddy's first game as head coach of the Auburn Tigers in Jordan-Hare. Never thought I'd see this, and it's almost here. Thank y'all so much for tuning in and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Smash that like button on the way out. We appreciate you being here. Until next time, War Eagle.